Hi, welcome to the gun room. The matches, they just keep coming, don't they? They're queuing up like Tory MPs for a cabinet job. We've got so many matches to cover. We've got four, so it's not so many, is it? But first, let's introduce you to my podcast family. There's Lauren in Barcelona. How are you, Lauren?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm not too bad. What's the weather like out there? I have to ask because we haven't got any at the moment.
Lovely and warm. We're back to 27 this week. So
Oh,
I know it's a bit ridiculous, but I'm enjoying it,
tough
make
life,
the
isn't
most
it?
of it. Yeah, it's great.
You'd have to have a pair of wellies if you were over here. How are you, Jay?
All good, all good. In the middle of a house move, so you
Oh,
can probably things are off the walls and stuff. So
so they are. Mr.
yeah. So
Adams disappeared.
next week, fingers crossed, we'll be in the new house when we come to record. So
Oh, cool. I just said
Exciting.
I had a bit of a drama. Just tried a pair of reading glasses on, and the lens popped out because the frames had split. So if I ad lib, I'm just going to make it up. You'll have to bear with it. That's what we'll have to do. Right then, the first thing up on the menu is Unai Emery is at Aston Villa as manager. He's back in the Premier League. Jay, let's start with you. What went wrong for Steven Gerrard?
um, I mean, he's relatively inexperienced, isn't he? And I think he probably could have done with staying at Rangers a little bit longer. He was onto a good thing there. Villa aren't a great side. I just think he just came to the end of his, he couldn't take them any further, really. But he probably should have stayed at Rangers. I thought when he took the Villa job, I thought it was a little bit too early. But pleased for you, Unai, because I'll always have a bit of a soft spot for him because I think he did okay for us. He was treated quite harshly by the media, the way he spoke.
It hasn't improved any. I saw him earlier on.
Yeah, he's a top coach and he's achieved everywhere apart from us. So it's not a surprise that Villa have gone for him because he's a top coach.
At least they acted really quickly because is it Wolves? Wolves are dallying, aren't they? They're just taking their time. But they got in there really quick. As you say, he's a winner. He's won loads of things, so he deserves a chance in the Premier League. Lauren, he was unfortunate at Arsenal. I think a lot of things didn't go his way. How did you see his reign at Arsenal?
Look, you know what? I think it's one of those. It's You never want to go in after someone who has such a legacy like Arsene Wenger, and I think anyone going in was going to be judged probably more harshly than, for example, Arteta is now. Kind of, there's a bit of buffer space between the legend that was Arsene Wenger, and now we're kind of starting to move on. But I think to compare with the situation with Moyes at United as well, like I think he was pretty harshly dealt with or handled in the media as well. It's just that very crucial first manager after the big name that I think no matter who goes in, they're going to really, really struggle to, one, make a name for themselves, and two, not fall victim to being always kind of in the shadows of their predecessor, if you know what I mean. Bit harsh, but I'm excited as well to see what he does with Villa. I think he's probably the best person to go there. It's exciting. I don't think it's one that I initially thought when, obviously I heard Jared was going. So we'll have to wait and see. But I think it's positive all around, really.
It was quite out of the blue. I think
Absolutely.
Unai does this thing. He's got like so many people who are video experts and all that. He shows them a lot of breakdown. It's wonder they play any football, to be honest. But I felt he was kind of at Arsenal at the wrong time because the
Exactly.
structure, the hierarchy was miserable. It was terrible. You had Mislintat, you had Raul,
Mm.
and it was kind of wrong for him. And the fans didn't really give him a chance. Mikel really survived the COVID period because maybe things wouldn't have been as good for him if the crowds had been allowed into the grounds. He would have maybe copped it. And it's an interesting fact, Jay, that sort of crowd pressure, you could feel it building every time I had the misfortune to watch them. But they were really starting to get how we were a couple of years ago, really toxic and calling for his head. So it was fairly inevitable, wasn't it, really?
You mean towards the end of Emery?
No, towards the end of Gerrard. Although
Gerrard,
Emery
right.
was the same, yeah.
Yeah, it always gets that way, doesn't it? I think that the way that they've quickly turned it around as well, with their result, it doesn't reflect well on the players, does it? They're just down tools. Just, it's not. They won't be the first. Well, they're not the first, and they won't be the last team to do that. It happens everywhere, doesn't it? But Gerrard won't have any problems getting another job, just because of his stature in the game, and I'm sure one day he'll go back to his beloved Liverpool. But
maybe not so soon.
Yeah, just going back to Emery. I mean, it was tough. Lauren's right, following Wenger, but I mean, it was tough. Again, just reiterate what you said, Tom, as well. The leadership structure at the club was a bit of a shambles back then. Excuse me, but we were also crap under Emery towards the end, weren't we? We were like defensively all over the place, strange selections. But he's a great coach.
I could never second guess it, because now you could actually name the starting 11. But back then, when I was writing the articles, I could never get it right. There were about 5 names I'd get right, and then the rest would be wrong.
Yeah.
So there was no consistency, and he didn't really have a plan, did he? I suppose his best match was really the London derby. I mean, that's where we thought it was a springboard, didn't we? We thought,
when the Torreira goal. But yeah, he's rebuilt himself, hasn't he? Since then, he's sort of gone away and he won the Europa League, didn't he, with Villarreal? So he knows what he's doing. Whether or not he'll achieve it at Villa, it's such a tough league, and Villa aren't a great side. But I'm sure he'll do well.
I think it's a bit of a crazy situation, really, because some managers get not many these days, but some managers get a lot of rope and some don't. But the thing for me with Villa, sorry, we're talking about Villa, but it is all linked. But the thing with Villa is the football wasn't very good. It wasn't very exciting. He had flair players. He bought well, but they just weren't playing.
Yeah.
So it's one of those. Oh, right, let's get on to something chirpy and something a bit more Arsenal. Lauren, it was a good week for the girls, a decent win. I replayed the gun room from last week, and you were, let's say, cautiously devastated about the result. I was going to play it back to you, but I can't.
I have it on a loop in my head, but I just want to go on record and say I don't think I was alone in my, let's say, slightly miserable predictions.
Hey, that's football, isn't it? That's what we get. We expect the worst and we get the best.
Exactly. And I mean, there was some stats being thrown out in the game, that was, so obviously Arsenal won, we won 5-1. Probably, I mean, to be completely honest, it's been such a busy week that I haven't had much time to really reflect on it. That kind of way. It was that game, and then straight away afterwards, we were into the Europa League last week with the men. So I didn't really have much time to dwell on it. But as I was looking back over it for the match report for the audio podcast, it kind of struck me like that feeling I had watching it was similar to Arsenal's win against Barcelona in 2011. That excuse me, that kind of unprecedented, unexpected win, but it just felt so good. And it, that's the kind of nights that you want if you go into European football. You don't have to go in to win the competition. And I mean, everyone dreams about that, but it's just those individual nights that sometimes make it all worth it. And it was exceptional, really, really was. Sorry, but to go back, some of the stats, that was their second loss at home in something like 82 games.
Wow.
Lyon. It was the first time ever in the Champions League that they'd conceded more than 3 goals, and Arsenal had scored 3 by the first half. And there was another one, I can't think of it now. First time they've lost by that many goals since 2006 at home. So look, it was just an absolute night for the history books, and it was great to watch it.
I tell you what, it was. I don't think it's too strong to say that they were ripped to shreds by the girls. It was a really strong performance, and the stack of goals as well.
Yeah, it was exceptional. It really, really was. Even though I kind of thought the first 2 goals, I was a bit on edge. I thought, we'd scored early. You've seen it so many times. You go ahead and then maybe you take the foot off the pedal a bit, or, Lyon kind of click back into place. Now, Lyon were very, very impacted by a lot of injuries, which I wasn't aware of prior to the game, actually. I think they only had 5 key starters. But in saying that, they had a lot of really experienced players still on the pitch. So, you know, the discrepancies weren't because of injuries. It just was a really poor performance from them. But, you know, as we said, Arsenal looked outstanding. Really, really did.
Well, they just lost. They didn't have any momentum, did they? Really going forward, and seeing as we've got our defensive pairing, our main defensive pairing out of the picture, it was even more impressive because I didn't expect us to be that good. I don't think anybody did, but you know, it was cracking. Caitlin Ford, she shone again, 2 goals for her troubles, but her movement is absolutely sublime.
Yeah, she's been outstanding, and it feels like she just keeps getting better and better. And obviously, you know, this season really does feel like it's all about me. All the attention's on her, and rightly so. Again, she had another great game, but I just think Caitlin Ford is offering something really exciting this season. And like you said, her movement off the ball, you know, this was their first 2 goals this season, but prior to this, she's been involved in almost every goal that we've scored in some way or another. So I was personally delighted to see her finally, you know, get her name on the score sheet.
I'll tell you what excitement she kind of brings is the Martinelli vibe. You know, every time she gets on that ball and she cuts forward, you just think, oh, something's going to happen.
Absolutely.
And invariably it does. The opener was by Ford. That was great, but she had a lot to do. I think the ball was coming in from Blackstenius, wasn't it? But it was,
I think it was Mead. It was Mead. Yeah.
And it was whipped in really fast and really fast. She had to really get a foot on it, and it could have. I've done it myself. Put a foot out, and it's gone right past me. Absolutely. So it was a real bit of skill to do that. Blackstenius is always a threat. I'm going to get this wrong, aren't I? What's her name? Maunham. I like that girl. What can you tell us about her? Because she's new on the scene, isn't she?
Yes, she came last summer. Basically, the big shock of the game really was that Miedema had been dropped to the bench and Maunham was in for her in that 10 role. And look, it made a lot of sense initially because Maunham came on against Reading the weekend previous and she had a phenomenal game. She was really, really good and she had a goal line clearance. So I think Eidevall was probably expecting Lyon to be a bit more threatening going forward. So to have a slightly more defensive-minded midfielder than Miedema made a lot of sense. But, you know, for her to come on and get a goal, putting Miedema on the bench, she really, really worked hard and she looked exceptional. I thought, again, that was another name who I thought really stood out on the evening. And, you know, she obviously got on the rebound from Blackstenius' shot, but she did well to get into that position and she created a lot of chances for herself that game.
Leon got a reply. It was really quite clumsy, wasn't it? Or was it fortunate? Bit of both.
Yeah, do you know, I watched it back again and I don't think there was anything Zinsberger, the keeper, could have done. I think, you know, it went in from a corner. One of their players headed it across. I think it hit the post and it just landed at the feet of someone who really didn't have much to do, but she sent it into the back of the net. And 2-1, that's kind of when you're thinking, okay, is this when they come back and they have their almighty, you know, renaissance or whatever the word is, but it wasn't the case.
Then we got Beth Mead. What did you see it, Jay? Did you see it was on Beeb? Oh
no!
What a scorcher!
Saw the result, yeah.
Wow, it was a scorcher from a free kick, and then she was top trumped by Ford, who put in a curler, and then Mead added the cherry to the cake.
Yeah.
As I say, Ford was exceptional. Who was the player of the match for you, Lauren?
Yeah, I think it probably would be between Ford for her goals and her goal contribution. I think Maunham really, really, really did so well considering she was, you know, new into the team. She was really fighting for her place. You obviously can't not mention Mead. She is just a different level this season. She really looks hungry. And I think, you know, it's one of those cases where it might have been the best case scenario for her coming second in Ballon d'Or because she really looks hungry for every opportunity she gets this season. Hard one, but I think I will have to give it to Ford.
Yeah, me too. It sends a message to everyone as well in the competition, surely, because that type of result, hefty, really overwhelming.
Absolutely, 100%.
What about pick of the goals, Lauren? Who would you go for?
Oh, tough one. They just got better and better.
Hard one.
But you know, I think probably Mead second, the fifth of the night. It really, like you said, the cherry on the cake, a great finish. It was I think 30 seconds after the restart from our fourth goal, again, Lyon were very sloppy, gave the ball away in their own half. I believe it was Ford. Was it Ford? I can't remember now. I think it was Ford again, or Manon, who jumped on the ball, loose ball, got it to Beth Mead, and she scored an absolute cracker. And, you know, I think the goals just progressively got better and better throughout the game.
Yeah, they did. It was a joy to watch. I watched it again tonight. It was that good. You've got to have second helpings, haven't you? Especially at the moment when it's all barren and a bit bare.
Yeah.
Right, we've got Zurich and West Ham, haven't we, next?
We do indeed. So Zurich on Thursday night as well, which clashes with the men's game, I believe. A little bit annoying. And I also said in the audio for the audio pod that, you know, given that we had Zurich in the Europa League, it would have been nice if we could have coordinated it some way. So, you know, maybe traveling Arsenal fans could have seen maybe the men's one day and then the women's the next day. I think it would have been better to really make, you know, an event of it in some way, but hey ho, maybe next season.
I think this is the thing though, isn't it, Jay? It's the fans are getting everything's getting condensed because of this World Cup that's coming. And the fixture list is getting so congested now, it's ridiculous. I mean, having to do 4 football matches on one single podcast is a bit of a nightmare. But how else can we manage it? We've got to get them in somewhere. And we've had the City game cancelled, so it gets even worse. Let's go on to Southampton. What were your thoughts, Jay, before the game? Because I think it's 3 out of 5 we've lost at their ground.
Yeah. So I was slightly more confident than I was about the Leeds game because I don't think Southampton are a very good side. And I didn't think they were a very good side before the game, and I don't think they're a very good side now. But I was confident. We had no real injury concerns. So I was confident that we'd get a result.
Well, let's go on to that team. It's 4-4-3-3 formation. It was Aaron Ramsdale, Tommy Asu back again, Gabriel, William Saliba, Ben White. Then we have Martin Odegaard, Thomas Partey, Granit Xhaka, Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus, and Bukayo Saka. So there were no. This is the thing, isn't it? Now you kind of put your teams out, and you, as I said before, you know what you're going to get. So there's no major surprises. It's just that odd left-sided position, which is a bit of a worry where Kieran Tierney is concerned. I hope he doesn't get fed up, and I hope he doesn't want to kind of move because you've got Zinchenko there as well. Has anyone had an update on Zinchenko? Do we know? I haven't
heard a thing.
No.
Well, the game itself, as it was a game of 2 halves, as they say. Boom, boom. The first 45 was wonderful. Great movement, great ambition, attacking prowess. And then the wheels fell off in the second 45. Are we becoming that first half team, Jay? Are we just on the ball for the first half and we just melt and fade away in the second?
No. I think, like you said, first half we dominated. We played some lovely stuff. And I don't know about you guys, but we were so on top that I felt that if we don't get that second, they're going to get. There's going to come a stage in the game where Southampton are on top, and then obviously the longer the game goes on, the more tired we become and the more susceptible we are to concede a goal. But in the first half, I mean, we could have been 3 or 4 up, should have had a penalty, and potentially they should have had a man sent off. I mean, I don't know if we're going to get onto it, but
we are.
The referees, it was one of the worst refereeing performances I've ever seen. I could not believe what the on-field referee was witnessing, what he was letting go. The Saka booking in the first half was, I mean, it was a joke. Saka hasn't. Yeah, I mean, you kind of understand. You know, there was a little while back when Leicester won the league, Jamie Vardy won a series of penalties by hanging his leg out, and then the referees got on top of it, and then he started to receive yellow cards from diving or initiating contact. Saka hasn't got that reputation, so I don't know why the referee straight away went over and brandished the yellow card. Okay, because even though there's contact, it doesn't mean there's a foul, or it doesn't mean it's a dive. It's a contact sport, and he was very quick to get that yellow card out. But first off, we absolutely battered him. More than deserved to go in 1-up. Lovely goal from Xhaka. And we were cruising, but again, it just in the back of your mind, you had that like niggling feeling that if we don't get a second goal, they're going to get back into it. And sadly, that happened. But as far as in each game this season, each league game this season, we have started on the front foot, high tempo, good press, crisp passing, and I mean, apart from even the United game, we were the better side then, and we kind of got away with it against Leeds when we were still the better side in that first half, but faded a bit. Maybe a bit of fatigue. I think I read somewhere in the week or maybe on Twitter that I think we have the least amount of rotation in the Premier League. So that tells you maybe a little bit from a fatigue point of view. And I expect to see a lot more fatigue. I expect to see a lot more rotation in the next couple of games because we're already through in the Europa League. We've got the Brighton League Cup game, and we've got the Forest game on Sunday, which you would. I know they had a good result against Liverpool, but you'd expect us to maybe get a result there and maybe rotate a little bit. So maybe try and deal with the fatigue side of it that way. But it was the first half brilliant. Second half, not so much.
Yeah, there was all sorts of stray balls and not getting to the ball quick enough. And their goal, which we'll talk about, there was a lot of standing off, wasn't there? They were giving them room. And you had that, Lauren, you like all this stuff when it gets a bit fluffy and, your pants start twitching and all the rest of it. You must have been on the edge of your seat for this one.
Absolutely. Do you know what? It was frustrating. It was really, really frustrating. Like Jay said, exactly. I think they looked exhausted. I thought they looked really, really tired. There was no real fight in them that we've seen, I think, throughout the season. And it seems to just be decreasing steadily. So from the Leeds game where you said we were lucky, it just seemed there was no juice left in the tank and we were really running dry almost. Not a great goal to give away. Absolutely not. I think, you can pick out individual errors, but there were so many that it became a team error, really. I think defenders were standing off. I don't think Ramsdale did particularly well in the goal. I don't know if it was just a lapse of concentration or, just...
For their goal, he looked like he was going one way and he's sort of the other way as well.
Absolutely. And what was so surprising is he's normally someone who's always so engaged with the match that he normally will know, or he'll at least attempt to go the right way. So it was a bit surprising from him. But look, you know what? To be completely honest, I think it's a game that we could have lost. I think it's a game that last season we certainly would have lost a lot more than 2-1. It probably would have been 3-1. Because it looked like we lacked a bit of belief, but somehow we held it together enough to still come away with the point. Still top of the table, 2 points ahead. I'm not going to panic just yet. Let's try to stay positive, Yeah,
let's not get too despondent.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've been absolutely amazing.
You have to take your chances because ultimately every team in this league has players that can hurt you, and we had enough chances in that first half easily to, you think of the lovely sort of dinky pass from Odegaard into Gabriel Jesus, and he should score. He's 5-6 yards out, maybe more, so 7 or 8 yards out, and he should score that one. And there was a number of other chances. If you don't finish your chances, that even Southampton, who I thought on the day, we made them look half decent. We let them back into it. If we maintain, or even if we get one more goal, the game is over. We kill them off. Their hope is gone, and they would never get back into that. But we couldn't do it. You have to take your chances because, like I said, every team, every game's tough, isn't it? There's no easy games.
Well, there was I was on a podcast last night, and I had to go into bat for Odegaard because he apparently, when he gets dirty and sticky, he doesn't do enough work. But I said there's that train of thought about versatility, which is great. If you've got someone who's versatile, they're happy to do it, and they're skilled enough to do it, then that's great. But Odegaard isn't one of those. He tries, but he's tracked back before and given away a penalty. I don't really want the most creative influence up in our box. I want him, outside our box and maybe in a more advanced position. And this was where Ozil sort of caught a cold, wasn't it, under Arteta? He wouldn't do any work, which I just don't get. You said about that ball, that little sort of poke into Jesus. What a fabulous skill to have. It kind of slows the game down and then creates something that wasn't there. Little pockets of space and little gaps.
It was his pass through to Jesus in the second half, wasn't it? Perfectly weighted. And I mean, you're not going to get Odegaard's not going to be flying into tackles. He's not going to be smashing into people. He wasn't bought to do that. If Jesus finishes those two chances, Odegaard's got another 2 assists, and he's played a massive part by doing the exact same thing as he did on Sunday, but we didn't finish, so he doesn't get that praise. He's a great player. He certainly wasn't. We weren't great. The second half, I think the drop in the second half was so much that it felt, I mean, I said at the time, it feels like a defeat, doesn't it? Because, the standard's been so high this season, and we've massive. Well, yeah, I would say we have massively overachieved. We're still top of the table. We're above this unreal Man City side with an absolutely ridiculous striker they've got, and we're above them. And it just seems that certain elements of the fan base have forgotten that, based on one draw. And we didn't lose. Like Lauren said, in years gone by, we probably would have lost. And it was important that we didn't lose. We've had a series of every game's tough, like we said, but we've had some tough games, in grounds that we haven't done particularly well at St Mary's, in recent years, like you said, Tom. And look, we need to rotate more. That's what I want to see. I want to see a bit more rotation, even if against PSV we lose, which I'm kind of expecting. Just we need to start rotating. So this drop off, like we halt this sort of seeming drop off in the second half, where it's not just physically, our passing goes, doesn't it? We become careless on the ball, and it's almost like as soon as that halftime whistle goes, it's like we need to see something a bit different. So it's definitely Mikel's got a job to do, hasn't he, in rotating these players to try and get them all firing again and to keep them going towards the the 90th minute.
He did have a very interesting. Sorry, Tom. He did have a very interesting point in his I think it was his pre-match conference against. It must have been against Southampton, because they were saying to him, Saka's played every game. Are you going to think about resting him? And his response was, the top players play 70 games a season. And I thought I was quite surprised by that, because I think he has quite a holistic approach to managing players that, it was quite a stern and, he's going to play the games I want him to play kind of response. And I wasn't really expecting that. I think my perception of it is that, we are massively overachieving in the league. And I think his aim for this season really is Europa. So that's why we're seeing a lot of these players being played in Europa early on. And I think, as Jay mentioned, we're probably going to see a heavily rotated side now on Thursday, given that our qualification secured and we're playing probably one of the top teams in our group. So we're a loss there, we can accept that. But I think that's probably the reason why. It's the only reason I can think. But I was surprised by his answer. I thought it was it was out of character in some ways from Arteta. I'm not sure if any of you heard that as well, but yeah.
I don't think Mikel's in love with the press, is he? He does one thing behind closed doors, and he does one thing for the press, and he doesn't tolerate too much nonsense off the press, which I think he
was annoyed. I think he was annoyed at the question because I don't think he accepts that as a reason, does he? He doesn't accept fatigue as a reason for, you could see the frustration because he knows that we should have won that game. We should have. There's no two ways about it. And it must annoy him because the standard's been set so high this season. But also, if you look at that game in isolation, 45 minutes, we've absolutely battered him. I don't know how many touches they had compared to us in that first half, but it must have been a fraction because we completely dominated. So the manager is bound to get a bit frustrated. And I think that answer was more based on, I'm not accepting fatigue. Because there were also players that played in that game on Sunday that didn't play against PSV.
Yeah.
That dropped off massively. The performance dropped off massively. And I don't know what you thought of some of the substitutes that came on. I thought Tierney did really well. I thought he's made a massive claim. He did really well, affected the game positively. But Fabio Vieira looked terrible. He didn't look like he fancied it, and it wasn't a particularly hostile, atmosphere, unlike the week before at Ellen Road, where the fans are on top of you and they're, it was the fans are right there, super loud. It didn't seem like that in St Mary's, and Vieira didn't fancy it. So I can imagine there was a fair amount of frustration. You could see it.
Tierney could have just got that ball before it had got over that line. That was a cool.
But he should have had a penalty. He got fouled, didn't he? There was another very strong shout for a penalty. And I know you don't want to keep having a go at the refs because obviously there's times this season where VAR has worked in our favour, or we've got favourable calls from the referee, and you only have to go back to the Leeds game where I suppose you could say that we were treated favourably, maybe, but. Again, the referee could not believe what I was seeing. Absolutely shocking.
Yeah, it wasn't good, was it? Is this a case, or there's evidence here that in January we have to go back into the market and just bolster up? I think we need another option as a striker because you've got Eddie, movement's great, and his touch is good. He looks good at times, especially in the Europa League as well. And then you've got Jesus who dribbles and he's away, isn't he? He's got the footwork of, a dancer. But there's no other solid option. So are we going to go in there January? We're not known for it, are we, Lauren? But we need something. We need an experienced head, probably in midfield, and we need an up-and-coming striker.
Absolutely. I think probably the most crucial position that I would look to strengthen is a replacement for Thomas Partey because... Again, I thought he was very good over the weekend. He's been great every game he's played. The only game we've lost is when he was missing. I think he really is the key in our success this season. And Europa game during the week, I wasn't overly impressed by Lokonga, to be completely honest. I just feel like if Partey does pick up an injury, which he's prone to do and known to do, I don't want to be putting my hopes I don't put my hopes on the Congo shoulders. I just think we need someone who's a lot stronger, a lot more experienced to really be that focal point of our midfield. Striker would be great as well. Absolutely. I think we need someone who is going to take every chance they get. Is it just Arsenal strikers? I'm not sure at this stage. It just seems, we create so many chances that maybe they lose a bit of that clinical, okay, I need to score this approach. I'm not sure if that's the case, but look, I'm not being too harsh on Jesus. I think he missed a few chances he probably should have scored, but I'm not going to say he's in a crisis or anything. But I think ahead of a striker, we should be looking to strengthen that midfield really in January, and then I'd be happy.
What about you, Jay? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I saw a few people suggesting the idea of a different type of forward up front, like a more of a target man, but it's a hard sell. You've got Gabriel Jesus who's going to play every week, who, look, let's not go overboard. He has made like he didn't have a great game on Sunday, but neither did the majority of the squad or those involved in either. He missed a few chances, but the impact that he's made he's transformed us. You know, he's brought a winning mentality. He's a leader, and what he offers, for me anyway, the positive aspects of his game far outweigh the negatives for me. And then you've got Eddie, who, for me, is a you know, they're similar type of, you know, size, and what they offer to the team's similar. And then if you were to then try and get another striker in who's going to play what? I mean, Eddie hardly gets up front, does he? He hardly gets any minutes up front. So to offer that to say, I don't know, a Giroud type striker, it's tough sell. It's a tough, you know, not many players are going to want to come and play the occasional 10-minute cameo. I'd maybe like to see a winger to give Saka a rest. I'd love to see Smith Rowe back at some point. You know, if we got him back in January and he got back to somewhere like to the form that we saw last season, he offers us. It's easy to forget what he offered us last year. You know, he's that midfielder. It's almost as if Xhaka is sort of a bit of Smith Rowe's ability has rubbed off on Xhaka. You know, the ability to run beyond the striker and get a goal, and you know, running almost like, you know, last year Smith Rowe was very, very similar to the way Lampard used to play. You know, running onto passes and dribbling through the lines and scoring great goals. So love to see him back, but I'd like to see definitely a winger. I think we're all right defensively. I want to, you know, we need Zinchenko back. You know, again, similar way that
they're a big miss, those two, aren't they?
Yeah,
a massive miss, because bottom dollar was Zinchenko would have played those two games, I'm sure.
Yeah, and he's such a calming influence on the team, and he's also creativity is so good, and his versatility and his ability to get into those positions where a lot of other left-sided defenders don't, which is sort of that between the midfield and defence. He's picking up that position where there seems to be a lot of space, where the opposition don't sort of shut down. So, but in the transfer market, we have to, because if we go into Christmas, or if we go into the World Cup rather, and we're top of the league still, you know, that's half the season done. And then do you shift your expectations? You know, I think it was all about Champions League this year. It had to be, for me personally, but also I think that Mikel and the club, it was their intention to get into the Champions League. You know, say come April, we'll have a look at what the best way is, whether it's the Europa or the top four. But if we go into, if we restart after the World Cup and we're top of the league, are we in a title race? You know, do we invest in the team and really go for the league title, or do we, you know, continue on the path that we are with these maybe potential rather than proven? I don't know yet. There's talk of us signing Mudryk, the Ukrainian winger who looks superb in the Champions League, and he could be a great signing. So I'm sure there'll be players in the World Cup that stand out that we'll probably get linked with. But for me, if I was Mikel, and I'm sure he is already doing this, you're going to be asking Josh, aren't you, for basically hundreds of millions of pounds, because I think the more these games get chipped away, you know, we've got Forest and then Chelsea, and then if we're still in if we're top of the league, like I said, after the World Cup, then I think you've got to go for it. You have to, because we're in the race, whether, you know, none of us want to believe it at the moment, you know, no one's saying it, but until we're out of it, we're still in it. So go for it, spend the money.
I think we should learn by our mistakes, because we didn't do anything in January, and I think that cost us last season. We needed bodies then.
Absolutely.
And we left it until the summer. We lost possession quite a lot, and that cost us in the second half. We were stretched all over the show. But let's get to that Xhaka goal. Let's have a highlight in this game, because there weren't many in the second 45. people probably in the miserable weather, getting cold and wet and damp and miserable. Jay, walk us through that Xhaka goal, because it was something else, wasn't it?
Yeah, Ben White. It was a little 1-2 with Saka, and White got to the byline, which his overlap has been a bit of a trademark this season, hasn't it? Overlapping.
That's good going forward.
Saka. I mean, he's had a great season, Ben White.
Yeah.
If he's not in that England squad, not that I care too much, but if he's not in that England squad, then it's a joke, because he's playing as good as any English defender. And he picks out Xhaka, and I mean, I don't know about you two, but I had to double take. You know, that can't be Xhaka who scored that. I mean, lovely.
That's an Aaron Ramsey goal, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's a great comparison. Aaron Ramsey-esque. Lovely finish. I mean, what can you say about him? And nobody saw this coming, did they? Granit Xhaka. You know, I mean, I certainly didn't. But great finish, and he's playing as good as anybody in the league at the minute.
He's kind of gone up about 6 levels, and none of us thought he was capable of it. And he's quite influential. When they had the huddle and he was in there, it was Xhaka doing the talking. Odegaard was kind of listening and adding his 2 pence worth, but it was Xhaka. So he's kind of like the unofficial captain, if you like. Do you think we could have changed formation in the second half? Because Southampton, this happened with the Leeds game. They changed, they had a little tweak at half time, and we just went with the same again. I think that's kind of costing us. Maybe we could have released Odegaard a little bit more by bringing someone into the middle, just shifting things around a little bit, maybe going to a back 3. I don't know, but it kind of, there's a couple of matches that I've seen and nothing changes. And you would think, well, they're doing that, we can do this because this will be better. But it's the formation that bothers me, Jay.
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, it's easy to say that but we battered them in the first half. I think I don't know how many options there are on the bench. If you look at the quality,
There's a drop off, isn't there?
Yeah, I'm with Lauren. I've never been convinced about Lokonga. Not 100%. He's a young player, but he plays in such a key area of the pitch that I've never been massively convinced. Vieira's still young, and he's going to blow hot and cold, you know. And then if you got Eddie, he can really only play down the middle. I know he came on the left and he's played on the left, you know, but I suppose you would rather push Jesus out onto the wing and push him down the middle. Tierney did really well when he came on, but I mean, I'm not sure there's too many other options you've got on the bench. Swapping the formation around, I suppose it was far too early to put Rob Holding on and, you know, dig in.
Might have been an option.
Yeah.
Handbag mentality and all that.
I mean, I saw some parts of the fan base sort of digging out Tomiyasu, saying that he didn't have a great game, and we should sort of give up on this, you know, this whole playing him at left fullback, which I didn't really agree with. I didn't think he did too badly. But again, it was just, I think it's just a poor performance in the second half. I don't think we need to look too much into it. I think we need to be grateful we didn't lose, and I think we need to look back at this last weekend as a point gained on Liverpool and Spurs. You know, and we didn't lose it. The only team we lost ground on was City. Now, you know, if you finish above City this season, you're going to win the league. So, I just think we don't need to overreact. It feels like a defeat, no doubt. You know, it felt like a defeat. But as far as changing formations, maybe, but you don't want to lose, do you? More than anything, you want to win the game, but you don't want to lose it. And when we didn't, we still. I mean, I can't think of any saves Ramsdale really had to make. He could have done better on the goal. The Armstrong goal, but I don't think they put us under massive amount of pressure. I think it was more our own doing, wasn't it? It was how careless we were with the ball, and we just the massive drop off from the first half.
Well, let's talk about that goal. 65 minutes, Armstrong. The defence just stood back. No one went in to put Shoe in or anything like that. And who's this guy they've got? Elanusi, Southampton. He just breezed through the lot. And he put on a killer pass. It was an Odegaard.
It was a lovely ball.
Pass.
It was a lovely ball, yeah.
Absolutely.
And he finished it well. Ramsdale was a bit wrong-footed, wasn't he? I think he'll be disappointed because it went in the middle of the goal, didn't it? You know, wasn't in the corner. So I always fear the worst. I said this to you last week when Leeds got the penalty. I always fear the worst. And again, I said at the time, we're going to lose this. But we didn't. And I suppose that has to be the positive, doesn't it? That you take out of the game. We didn't lose because you know what it would have been like. It would be the whole, the whole media, social media, every media outlet in the country will be saying, "Oh, the bubbles burst." You know, this Arsenal team aren't what we thought they were. Whereas we didn't lose. So I suppose that.
You could feel it coming, though, couldn't you, Lauren? This equaliser, you got the sense, as Jay said there, there's that sense of foreboding that something's going to happen. It's starting to slip away. All the little neat things that we do, the control of the game had sort of subsided. And then we allowed them back in. Did you get that feeling as you were watching it? Because I was hiding behind a cushion at one stage. I had it right up to my face going, come on!
Absolutely. And you know what? I felt, even when they equalised, I felt really we were on the back foot, and I thought, you know what, they could go on and they could end up getting a winner here. It was not a nice feeling. I miss back, what was it, maybe 2 months ago, when I was saying, this is boring, we're winning 3-0. I don't like this. Bring that back. Bring that back. It was tough, but Ben White gave a great post-match interview, and he said, it's tough and we're human. And I kind of just went, you know what, fair. I don't think they could have said much more. The most important thing, I think, is their response. Okay, we're going up against Forest next weekend. Yes, they got a great result against Liverpool, but Liverpool have been blowing hot and cold all season. And yeah, okay, we're going to celebrate our win. We did very well. But, other teams that you're not expecting to beat them are beating them, and they're beating them pretty convincingly. I'm looking forward to seeing how we respond. And I think that's going to be the big teller of how we're going to cope with the rest of the heavy fixture list coming up, and, tough games like this season. Yeah, pity, but, it had to happen at some point. I was depressed for about 20 minutes afterwards, to be honest. And then I looked at the table and I thought, hang on, okay, we're still top here. Calm down. It's not the end of the world. That kind of way.
Yeah, it gets like that because you kind of think, oh, I've just watched that and we've dropped 2 points, and you walk away and you kind of have to deal with it and struggle with it. I think I've only just got over it, to be honest. But penalty for Jesus, Jay?
Yeah, definitely. And he could have had. I think he should have had 2. I mean, what was the defender's name? He's got a funny surname. I think he's a Croatian. I can't remember his name. I mean, wasn't just the penalty, but there were multiple fouls all over the pitch where he had his arms basically all around Jesus. And again, I just don't know what the referee was thinking. And then there was also Lianco, the other, running around like a madman, sort of. I think he actually sort of clipped Jesus a few times in the back, and it's like, there's VAR. I thought players knew that you can't get away with stuff like that, but you obviously can.
There was a push in the box as well, wasn't there? Who was that?
Yeah.
Was it Ben White?
Ben White, first half, yeah.
Flat on his face.
Yeah. But it also, the conspiracy theorist in me, makes you think, like, it was such a bizarre performance from the referee. Are they they told before the game, Arsenal got away with a few last week, so don't give them anything. It was bizarre because from game to game, not just Arsenal, but the same offence can occur in another game, and the complete opposite can get given by the referee, which there's no consistency, which we know.
I've got to interrupt. Did you see McTominay in the Chelsea Man United game? Did you see that? He virtually picked him up around the middle and ran around with him. And I mean, they're clear and they're obvious. I think Jesus doesn't help himself sometimes because he stays up and then decides to go down. I think if he'd gone down straight away, that would have been it. It would have been a no-brainer. But
if he finishes that 1-on-1 midway through the second half, then the referee can be as crap as he wants to be, can't he? We've won the game, so it doesn't affect anything. But
I think that's the balance, isn't it? If you take your chances, you don't have to worry about VAR or refereeing. Just do your job when you're out there. And sadly, we're not converting half the chances we should do. Right, let's quickly have a roundup of what was left, which was PSV and Liverpool. Van Nistelrooy, shades of the infamous Man United brawl, wasn't there? Him coming back, it had shades of Martin Keown, angry arms in the air and all that sort of thing. I hate the fella. I was hoping they would get spanked severely. What did you make of the PSV game, Lauren?
I'm trying to think back on it now. I think there's
a lot of games to go through, isn't it? You've got to have like your Rolodex.
What was the score?
Who was it? When was it? 1-0.
1-0. Okay, yeah. That just got banked in the, one of those games.
It is a saturation, isn't it? You just can't keep
honestly up. I can't. I'm really struggling. Like, do you know what I mean? Obviously, I wasn't going to forget the Lyon game, but then I can only keep 3 games in my head at a time. So I don't remember the PSV game.
I think the biggest. I think it was their supporters. They were throwing quite a bit of unrest in the away end, wasn't there? Mm-hmm. Which I think that's going to materialize, resurface on Thursday. There's probably going to be a bit of crowd. We weren't at our best, but we won. And cup football, so they're not a bad side, and we controlled it, didn't we? We deserved to win. I think it'll be a little bit different at their place, but I'm with you, Tom. Van Nistelrooy, not my favourite player in the world.
Looks like his head's been shut in the lift doors, doesn't it? It's long. Yeah. Looks like he's been sucking lemons. Jesus, how did he not get on the score sheet in that game? I mean, he threw everything at that goal. Still didn't manage it for some reason. Mm-hmm. We went close with Vieira, Saka, and Nketiah. And then our man of the hour, Granit Xhaka, turns up in the 70th minute. It's a purple patch and a half, isn't it? What's going on with that guy?
He's loving it. Long may it continue.
So I definitely think you're right there. It's going to be a different game. It's going to be very intense. There was, I think I read somewhere, there were flares and chairs being ripped up and all sorts. Yeah. So, it's going to be a much harder contest over there. And I think Cody Gakpo didn't really appear, did he, either?
No.
Went from 0 to 0. Didn't really show up. And he was on our radar at one stage. All we've got to do, really, is grind out a draw, bare minimum. I'd like to see us thrash the pants off them, but that's all we've got to do. Predictions for that one. We'll start with Lauren.
I'm going to go with 1-1. Yeah, 1-1. I'll play it safe.
Oh, mine, Lauren. I'll go 2-2.
Okay.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Can't go any of those. I'm going to be optimistic and go for a grubby 1-0. Why not? We like a grubby 1-0 at the minute.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go to Liverpool in the WSL. Arsenal had quite a comfortable win in the end, didn't they? 2-0. Could have been a lot more. Were you happy with the performance, Lauren?
Yeah. Do you know what? It was, I would call it a very routine win. Liverpool, they newly promoted, obviously, but they did have that shock win against Chelsea on the opening weekend. They proved that they can bring it. They started the game very, very well. I thought, they probably got into it a bit quicker than Arsenal did, but it didn't take long for us to settle down, really. First goal, Leah Valti, another Swiss captain, actually, as well. Stunner of a strike.
Very crisp.
God, it was beautiful. She hadn't scored in, I think it was 1,000 days. There was a countdown, some account, it's like 998 days since Leah Valti scored. And she was absolutely raging because she was like, I was 2 days off 1,000. She couldn't even give me that, worth it for the goal in the end. It was beautiful. And then after that, who was it? Manham again. Again, great run. She did very well with the tight angle.
She
Yeah,
is so strong. I mean, she had
unbelievable.
plenty of bodies there, and she's just, I like all that, bit of argy-bargy, and she was just shouldering them
Absolutely.
off. It's hard to see her losing her place, isn't it, Laurie?
It's a tough one. I think it's really, really tough. I thought for the Lyon game, she was just going to come in, like I said, defensive, I suppose, tactical switch for Miedema. To see her start against Liverpool, I was a bit surprised. I thought, that would probably be a game that Miedema would have been given a run out, maybe a slightly easier defense. No disrespect to Liverpool, but games where she might be able to get her scoring record back to where it was. Surprised to see Manum in, but I mean, God, she really, really proved her worth there. So
Yeah, she's
yeah,
making the most of her chances and
absolutely.
opportunities, isn't she? You're in great shape, aren't you, the girls? Throughout the game, they look very polished and robust. 12 wins in a row, equaling the record, which I think was it them and Man City held.
I think so, yeah.
10 games in the league without conceding, 100% this season. And they had a record crowd for the game there, 3,448 fans. So well done, you girls. Keeping us entertained. They look a lot stronger this term as well, don't they? More compact with more options with some of the names you've mentioned.
Absolutely. I mean, I know obviously it's early to say this, and given Chelsea's start, City's start as well, it really depends on if Man United are able to keep this intensity up. I mean, they're really the only ones I can see challenging Arsenal. And I think if we compare it to the men's, it's a bit like City versus Arsenal. Obviously Arsenal women are being, I'm not going to say they're as guaranteed as City to do well, but that level of experience versus inexperience, if you know what I mean. So it's just a matter of seeing who can hold out. And the thing that might go against Arsenal is Champions League, depending on how far we get with that. Might see a bit of exhaustion creeping in there, but so far so good. We'll take it as it comes.
Well, we're pretty much top of everything at the moment. It's wonderful, isn't it? WSL top, Premier League top. You carry on through Europe as well. We're dominating Europe as well. We don't care, do we? Right, let's look forward to the Forest game. Now, I would have been a lot happier had Liverpool spanked Forest, because I think their tails are in the air now, and they're going to prove a bit of a challenge, and we need to be up for that challenge. Jay, when you saw that scoreline, I had to laugh. Sorry, Liverpool fans, if anyone's got family that's Liverpool fans. But I had to laugh about it because that's the way their season's going. It's here, it's there, it's everywhere. Did you think that it's going to inspire them to, really make a go of it?
Who, Forest? Are they going to be able to stay up? I think Forest at home are a different animal to they are that's a tough game. The atmosphere's always good at the City ground.
It is.
And they always get up for the big games. It's no surprise that they slipped up against, Bournemouth and Fulham at the City ground, but they were up for the Liverpool game. And I don't know if you watched it, but the atmosphere looked great. I've got a lot of friends that are Forest fans that went to the game, and great occasion for them. But I fully expect us to absolutely batter Forest. Like away from home, they aren't the same. Their whole Forest season will rely on their home form and their ability to pick up points, as many points, wins and draws that they can get at home, because they won't get many away. They're not built. They're so disjointed as a team that they can. There will be times, and they've shown obviously against Liverpool, there will be games where everything clicks. Kouyaté in the middle had a great game, and defensively they looked okay, but Liverpool missed some massive chances in that game. Salah missed a big chance. Van Dijk missed a massive headed chance at the end of the first half, which he should have done better with. And Henderson in the Forest goal had a good game. There'll be tough opposition, and they'll be set up to defend. Whereas at home they're a little bit more expansive, but I fully expect us to pick up the result. I was surprised that they beat Liverpool, because I kind of thought Liverpool maybe had turned a bit of a corner. They'd had some good results, but again, they are all over the place. They've got an aging squad, haven't they now? And they need to rejuvenate this squad. They need wholesale changes. I hope they don't. I hope they continue on the path, and I hope they crash and burn. But I'm sure Klopp will turn them around. Will turn them around. But this weekend, I fully expect us to get a good win, and then you can put that disappointment against Southampton to one side, can't you? And we can look forward. And I think it's a good game to have. And they are the weakest team, I would say, alongside probably Bournemouth. I don't think much to Southampton, but I think it's a good team, and also a good time, because Forest, they've got that win. They were in such a bad run that they needed a result. And you might be right. The confidence is going to be up, but I still expect us to get a result. Absolutely.
Give us a prediction, Jay. As you say, at home, so
yeah, I think 3-0. I think it'd be 3 or 4-0. So yeah, I can't see them scoring, and then we're looking good again, aren't we?
I like what he's actually doing down there. He's actually assembling a team. Maybe not for this season, but if they can hang in there, maybe next season it'll be different.
He's a great manager. Steve Cooper is a top manager, and I'm glad that they put faith in him. He deserved that. That the last thing you wanted to see was Marinakis sack him and get rid of him and do what a lot of these clubs do. That they panic after 7 or 8 games and get rid of the manager, because Cooper's he's and I don't know if you've seen interviews with him. He comes across as a top bloke, like a really nice guy. Tough job, because last season it's been well publicized. What he spoke about a lot, that they signed 22 players. I think it was 13 or 14 of those players from last season were either on loan or had left, were out of contract. So they needed to sign all these players, and it's a tough job. And I'm glad they stuck with Cooper, because he's a really good young manager.
Well, as you say, it doesn't do to sack your manager, does it, Stacey? Got to go with them, haven't you, Stacey? She's a Leicester fan, if you didn't know already. But yeah, they're looking all buzzy again, aren't they? Got themselves off the bottom and making a go of it. Right, Laura, let's get a prediction from you then. What do you feel? Do you feel confident about this?
Yeah, I feel confident. I think I'm going to go 3-1. I think our home defense record isn't that great. We seem to be leaking in goals here, there, and everywhere.
Is an issue.
Yeah. So I think I like that. I'd like 3 goals. Yeah, I think Xhaka could probably get another one. Maybe Saka with 1, and maybe Martinelli. Will we go with that? I'd like that.
That'd be 3 goals in 3 games. I mean, what's that about?
Why not? Let's go with that. I think 3-1. Probably a sloppy goal to give away, but we'll live with it.
I'm going to stick behind our defence and say we're going to keep a clean sheet and we'll go 2-0. I'm going to be that sort of level where we just we don't commit ourselves too much. Right. Thanks for a great podcast. My glasses have sort of fallen apart, and that's why I was stammering and stuttering all over the place. But we survived. Thanks very much for watching, and don't forget to send us an email. We've got some emails, can't read them out tonight, but yeah, send us an email at it'sanarsenalthing4@gmail.com. My thanks to Jay, my thanks to Lauren, and I'll see you on the next pod.